spell work today, and then we got word of the day, and then we're going to talk about number 2, the philosophies from the Chow Dynasty today. 3 insights from the foreign exchange student panel that we had from yesterday. Cameron, you got one? What was that? Yeah, we talked about how we have a tendency to probably have higher levels of sugar in our bread than what they do, right? Yes, Saber. Yeah. So these two happen to come from smaller locations, smaller communities. I've had some students in the past. They come from very large metropolitan areas, so very similar to what we have. Ms. Bailey?
They're like countries and whatever, they were like cleaner.
The what?
The places they live were
Cleaner, yeah, than what we have here in the United States. You know, and it probably didn't meet their expectations. They talk about how the United States is on such a high pedestal of being, a perfect or a great, awesome, rich, wealthy society, and sometimes, our McDonald's is probably not up to their expectations. Sometimes, Miss Greta?
It was interesting to see that how they think that our high school is like in the movies.
Yep, in the movies. They like that. You may not sometimes you guys take this for granted, but they see our educational system as a little bit more enjoyable than what their educational system is, right? One more, Miss Genesis?
that we use too much plastic.
Yeah, we're quite a bit more wasteful, right? They have more stringent social norms in their particular cultures to make them a little bit more environmentally friendly than what we have here in the American culture. All right, so Nerdia was from what country? Spain, and Doris was from Croatia. Okay, good. Number 2, what are the two philosophies from the Chow Dynasty? That's good? Confucianism and Taoism. Taoism, it's pronounced with like a hard D, soft T sound, Taoism, and Confucianism. And again, that's going to be our emphasis today here in a moment. Let's go ahead and do our word of the day. Get that out.
Are we going to do 2 since we didn't do 1 yesterday?
Nope, we'll just do 1 today. Our word of the day today is cacophony. It means crash, an unpleasant noise. Antonym, harmony. The 4th grade Christmas concert was perhaps more of a cacophony than a demonstration of harmony and melody. I think of the band. Whenever they come out to play before the basketball game, they always, everybody just starts playing their scales. Everybody at the same time. That's a cacophony. That's a great example of a cacophony. It's just blatant noise. Okay? So maybe keep that in mind here. Other synonyms. Crash. Other synonyms for cacophony. Yes. How about ruckus? What would we say? Ruckus. How do you spell ruckus? Whoops.
R-U-C-K-U-S.
It's not R-U-C-K-U-S. Well, let's see. Ruckus is the name of a company. R-U-C-K-U-S is the name of a company. So it's not that. Still not finding the correct spelling. No. Does anybody find the correct spelling yet? It's R-U-C-O-U-S. No.
R-U-C-K-U-S.
Ruckus? I put Ruckus. R-U-C-K.
That's what I put.
What do you mean?
Hey, look it up. It's literally like recognition for it. Disturbance or commotion.
All right, the correct spelling. Carson. It's Raucous. Yes.
Raucous? I looked it up and
It's the name. What you're spelling is the name of a company.
it says a disturbance or commotion. R-U-K-R-U-C-K-U-S.
We've got the correct spelling is Raucous. You must be using like some.
Google Translate.
No, it's probably
I
it.
looked that one up too.
All right, we need one more synonym.
Alright then.
Really, that probably should stay away from that one because it's not even a noun. Yes. Commotion. 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 It is ruckus. Ruckus. I apologize. I'm mistaken.
R-A-C-K. R-U-C-K. Yeah, I said
Yep.
R-A.
All right, part of speech. Part of speech. Tyler. It is a noun. Antonyms. You've got harmony. Avery.
Angelic.
Well, that'd be an adjective. Yes.
Peaceful.
It's an adjective.
Peace.
Peace. Yes, that'll work. Yes. What is that? Melody. All right, our sentence, we got to have a hyperbole and extreme exaggeration in your sentence. You got to have cacophony, and we're going to watch this short reading of a book called Three Ninja Pigs. I enjoy reading children's stories, read quite a few of them, and I came across this one a couple years ago, and there's some pretty good application to it.
Story Shark presents The Three Ninja Pigs by Corey Wilson Schwartz, illustrated by Dan Santak. Once upon a dangerous time, a wolf looked to huff and to puff. He'd go around town and blow houses down until three little pigs cried, "Enough! We've got to get rid of that bully. We're tired of letting him rule. We must put an end to this terrible trend. Let's train into that new ninja school." Pig 1 took beginner Aikido to learn a few basic techniques. He gained some new skills, but he got bored with the drills and dropped out in less than 2 weeks. His brother Pig 2 took jujitsu and learned how to block and to punch. When that wolf comes to knock, he'll be in for a shock. Kia will eat him for lunch. The teacher said excellent progress, but Pig Son, you must study more. Pig 2 said, "No way, sayonara sensei, I'm ready to settle a score." Pig 3 chose the art of karate and rose bright early to train. She got in the groove and mastered each move, the cartwheel, the crescent, the crane. She balanced and blocked like an expert and practiced her lessons non-stop. By the time she was through, she could break boards in two by performing a perfect pork chop. For months she persisted in earnest until she had paid all her dues. How happy she felt when she earned her last belt. I'll make that wolf shake in his shoes. Soon after, the wolf paid a visit to the little straw house of Pig 1. "Stay out of my hut or I'll kick your big butt. I'm telling you, you'd better run." The wolf took a giant step forward. "Oh yeah, come and get me," he dared. Pig 1 made a fist. He swung, but he missed. "I wish I'd been way more prepared." The wolf chased Pig 1 to his brothers and hollered, "Hey pigs, let me in." Pig 2 yelled, "Retreat, or you'll suffer defeat by the hair of my chin. One puff and the wolf blew the door down. Pig 2 did his best flying kick. But whoosh, the wolf dodged and the pig's foot got lodged. "We gotta get out of here quick." The chase carried on to their sisters. Pig 3 was outside in her gi. I'm a certified weapon, so watch where you're stepping. You don't want to start up with me. Pig 3 faced the wolf and bowed deeply. For ninjas are very polite. Quit huffing and puffing, and I am not bluffing. I warn you, I'm willing to fight. She then gave a swift demonstration, with backflips and butterfly kicks. The wolf looked quite shaken, but hollered, "Yo, bacon, I'm not at all scared of your tricks." Pig 3 heaped some bricks in a pile. I'll show you what else I can do. With one mighty whack, she split the whole stack. Pig 3 said, "That could have been you." The wolf saw that he was a rival. He took one last look at Pig 3. "I'd love to eat ham, but I think I should scram before she makes mincemeat of me." The brother pigs high-fived their sister and watched the wolf vanish from view. They cheered, "Ninjas rule, let's go back to school so we can be ninja pigs too." They devoted themselves to their training, till each proudly earned a degree. 3 pigs full of mojo, they ran their own dojo, and life was forever wolf-free. Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this reading...
All right, so came across this. You know, the Three Little Pigs is a traditional American cultural story, but this variation of it took on a number of principles and characteristics of Southeast Asian culture. What would we call that process? They acculturated, right? Ideas from Southeast Asian culture, and now it's a pretty cool variation to the story. So, good stuff here. Make sure you got this in your writing, the Three Little Pigs, cacophony in your sentence, and you have to have a hyperbole and extreme exaggeration. All right, go ahead and share with the person in front of the person behind you, checking for those items. Hyperbole, Three Little Pigs, cacophony. All right, let's share one real quick. Drew, what do you got?
I didn't really have hyperbole though.
Maybe we can help you out there. Go ahead and read what you have.
The third pig made a big cacophony to scare off the wolf.
To scare off the wolf. Well, that's not an exaggeration. How do we get an exaggeration? The third pig. You say something about big?
Big cacophony.
A big cacophony.
Big as a chicken.
Um,
Big as a dragon.
Go ahead and read it one more time, please.
The third pig made a big cacophony to scare off the wolf.
Maybe making an exaggeration with the cacophony, how loud the cacophony was, right? That would maybe be the best option there. All right, let's go and put that off the side. You need a sheet of notebook paper. You need to fold it in half, please. Fold it in half. Go ahead and write Confucianism at the top of one half. We're going to watch a video on Confucius. As I share the video, you need to watch, and you need to write down 3 details. 3 details.
Most people recognize his name and know that he is famous for having said something. But considering the long-lasting impact his teachings have had on the world, very few people know who Confucius really was, what he really said, and why. Amid the chaos of 6th century BCE China, where warring states fought endlessly among themselves for supremacy, and rulers were frequently assassinated, sometimes by their own relatives, Confucius exemplified benevolence and integrity, and through his teaching became one of China's greatest philosophers. Born to a nobleman but raised in poverty from a very young age following the untimely death of his father, Confucius developed what would become a lifelong sympathy for the suffering of the common people. Barely supporting his mother and disabled brother as a herder, an account keeper at a granary, and with other odd jobs, it was only with the help of a wealthy friend that Confucius was able to study at the Royal Archives, where his worldview would be formed. Though the ancient texts there were regarded by some as irrelevant relics of the past, Confucius was inspired by them. Through study and reflection, Confucius came to believe that human character is formed in the family and by education in ritual, literature, and history. A person cultivated in this way works to help others, guiding them by moral inspiration rather than brute force. To put his philosophy into practice, Confucius became an advisor to the ruler of his home state of Lu. But after another state sent Lu's ruler a troupe of dancing girls as a present, and the ruler ignored his duties while enjoying the girls in private, Confucius resigned in disgust. He then spent the next few years traveling from state to state, trying to find a worthy ruler to serve, while holding fast to his principles. It wasn't easy. In accordance with his philosophy, and contrary to the practice of the time, Confucius dissuaded rulers from relying on harsh punishments and military power to govern their lands, because he believed that a good ruler inspires others to spontaneously follow him by virtue of his ethical charisma. Confucius also believed that because the love and respect we learn in the family are fundamental to all other virtues, personal duties to family sometimes supersede obligations to the state. So when one duke bragged that his subjects were so upright that a son testified against his own father when his father stole a sheep, Confucius informed the duke that genuinely upright fathers and sons protected one another. During his travels, Confucius almost starved. He was briefly imprisoned, and his life was threatened at several points. But he was not bitter. Confucius had faith that heaven had a plan for the world, and he taught that a virtuous person could always find joy in learning and music. Failing to find the ruler he sought, Confucius returned to Lu and became a teacher and philosopher so influential that he helped shape Chinese culture, and we recognize his name worldwide, even today. For the disciples of Confucius, he was the living embodiment of a sage who leads others through his virtue, and they recorded his sayings, which eventually were edited into a book we know in English as the Analects. Today, millions of people worldwide adhere to the principles of Confucianism, and though the precise meaning of his words has been debated for millennia, when asked to summarize his teachings in a single phrase, Confucius himself said, "Do not inflict upon others that which you yourself would not want." 2,500 years later, it's still sage advice.
Kind of sounds like what other common rule that you're familiar with, the golden rule, right? Western culture has a tendency to emphasize that one. Go ahead and share with the person in front and person behind you the 3 details that you wrote down associated with Confucianism. All right, I forgot to emphasize that when you fold your paper over, it should be hamburger style rather than hot dog style. So see some of you do it long ways, hot dog style. You need to make sure it's hot hamburger style, okay? One detail that I want to emphasize, I imagine you got quite a few good ones there, but Confucius, his ideas were put together in a book, and that book was called the Analects. Make sure that you have that the name of that book written down. Analects, Analects. His principles and guidelines, okay? So you can see that fairly stringent with certain types of rules, certain roles, and fulfilling that role leads to success in life. It, from my perspective, would probably shift the Chinese culture to a little bit more of a conservative approach rather than a liberal approach. The liberal approach we're going to get to here in just a moment. So that's one side. All right, now I want you to flip it over to a blank side with your sheet of paper. And I'm going to read you some Taoist poetry. And what I'd like you to do for a moment is to visualize the scene in which this poem is describing. And then you're going to try to recreate it. Okay, so let's go ahead and close our eyes. Breathe in through your nose. Exhale through your mouth. Relax. And then, again, try to visualize in color specifically what's going on in this short poem. It's called Snow on the River. Over thousands of mountains, no bird flies. Over thousands of paths, there is no trail of footprints. On a lonely boat sits an old man with a bamboo hat and cape, fishing silently in the snowy river. Read it one more time. Over thousands of mountains, no bird flies. Over thousands of paths, there is no trail of footprints. On a lonely boat sits an old man with a bamboo hat and cape, fishing silently in the snowy river. All right, open up your eyes. Take a couple moments here. And on one of the blank sides of your sheet of paper, I want you to draw out the image that you were able to visualize there in your mind. Okay? All right, go ahead and fold it over and find another blank side and write Taoism. Taoism, Taoism, Taoism. I'm going to write down a few notes on Taoism here for a second, and then we're going to go back to our imagery that we have created. Okay, our objectives today, not only learn a little bit about Confucianism through the video there, we can compare it with Taoism. It's identified in our objectives as Taoism as a religion. Taoism, I don't necessarily want you to approach it so much as a religion as more of a philosophy like that of Confucianism. Confucius was not seen as a deity. Either was Lao Tzu, Lao Tse. they were seen more as philosophers and ideas and principles by which you could guide your life. Okay, and then we're going to recreate Taoist art, and we're in the process of doing that. Okay, you guys know what this is called?
Yin yang.
Yin yang. That idea of balance, achieving balance in life. That idea actually originates with Taoism. So this is an example of Taoist art. What do you notice in this particular image? Tyler, what's in this image?
Yellow.
Yellow. Okay. What is it a drawing of? Not so much colors.
I just see lines.
What's that?
I see lines.
I see lines. What we got, Bailey?
Bamboo.
Okay, we got maybe bamboo. We got a bamboo tree, maybe. Genesis. Birds. Good. Maybe a bird right here. Right. What we got, Greg?
Mountains.
Mountains maybe in the background, right? Back here. So it's really nature. Do you see any aspects of man? No. Okay. I want to emphasize that, Taoism is trying to combat our natural inhibitions to see that we are really, really important. We have a tendency, from the Taoist approach, we're very egocentric. And we think that we are it, right? That everything revolves around us. And the Taoist approach is to combat that idea and say that we are just one small component in the world in which we live, right? So it's de-emphasizing man's role, really, a lot with Taoism, and it's emphasizing other characteristics, qualities of nature, okay? All right, did the snow on the river. The word Tao means path or way. Path or way. So you may write Tao equals path. And really, what is meant by path or way, it's like an approach to life. Path or way. Sometimes it's known as the other way because it coexisted with Confucianism. And so Confucianism would be considered like another path. Like that path's over there. And then Taoism has a path over here. Okay? Really think about it that way. More Taoist art. What do you see here? We got Genesis.
I see like on the side like a bridge and like water.
Right, but is that the emphasis? No. Okay, so the emphasis, of course, is nature, the trees, the mountains, the boulders. So very scenic. And then off to the side, you see man's influence. But again, man's influence is not the center piece. It's not the emphasis. It's de-emphasized. The founder is Lao Tzu, Lao Tse. Sometimes he's known as the Old Master. Sometimes I think students get this visual imagery when they think about Old Master, that terminology associated with Lao Tzu. They think about climbing up in the Himalayan mountains to this, Buddhist or monastery that's way up there. And once you get up there, there's this old monk and he levitates, in the air while you get up there. Right? When you meet him. That's really more towards Buddhism. I say Buddhist monastery. So Lao Tzu, Old Master, a little bit different from Buddhism. Don't get the Buddhist influence there. More Taoist art, you see more trees, more boulders. You get some animals here, maybe some deer. Okay. You don't have to write this down, but I want you to think about the contingent nature of the context, the social context in which Confucianism and Taoism developed. Okay, they created as a means to avoid conflicts that destabilize society, emphasizes the need for order and harmony with nature. So the main purpose of Taoism, the foundational principle, is to achieve harmony with nature. That's the idea behind Taoism. Okay, but this particular slide here gives us an idea that the context in which Confucianism and Taoism came from is a very unstable society. What if Lao Tzu and Confucius were born into stable societies? Would we really have Taoism and Confucianism today? The popularity of those two ideas are really contingent upon them being born in an unstable society, to have a need for different types of guidelines and approaches to life. Okay? With this particular image here, I'd like to emphasize that there is man, but again, man is not the emphasis. You can barely see man here, right? He's behind the horse in this particular imagery. More trees, more animals. Okay. Taoism is described as a spiritual way to live. The universe flows through and surrounds all life. Want you to write out to the side Another belief system we'll look at in the spring semester is called animism. A-N-I-M-I-S-M, animism. And animism is mostly associated with the indigenous cultures of the America, the Amerindians. Animism is the idea that you can find spiritual forces in all living things. So we'll watch a film at the beginning of this semester in the spring called Lost in the Barrens. And this young guy from Canada chases down this deer. And he talks about praying to the spirit of the deer. Okay, that's reflective of animism, right? Spiritual forces found in living things. With Taoism, it's like spiritual forces found in anything. Rocks, right? Rocks aren't necessarily alive, but that's the idea. It's nature. And you can see humanity here, but again, it's masked by the trees there. Remind you of the concept of the Wu Wei. Remember we said Wu Wei means to go with the flow. It's a principle of non-action, which implies working with, not against nature. Sometimes in our context, our daily lives, we try to take too much control over what's going on, try to do too much. Sometimes, I use the terminology, sometimes it's just better for us to be smarter. Smarter in this context is to let things go a little bit, right? To step back rather than working so hard. Smarter, not harder. Sometimes we try to work so hard, take so much control, that we actually do more harm than good. Okay? Other beliefs associated with, and principles associated with Taoism, Taoists say that humans should not be confined by laws. I want you to think about how it contrasts with Confucianism. Confucianism is all about laws, guidelines. Okay? Taoism is not. It's about freedom, doing what you want to do. They also say human desire is good, and life should be pleasurable. You need to seek out those things from the Taoist approach. People should ignore traditions and act on instincts and desires. Again, this idea, Confucianism, where does it come from? Confucianism is all about traditions, all about studying the past. And so Taoism contrasts that by saying we shouldn't be confined by traditions, right? We should be able to do other things. Okay? More Taoist art, you can see the snow, the mountains, the trees, lack of humanity there. Other beliefs, balance of the opposites with the yin-yang. And they also have this idea that they said that no government is necessary. If you follow the principles of Taoism, there wouldn't be a need for authoritative figures because everybody would, be able to get along with one another there. So, interesting idea. Last thing. There's this concept of the 5 elements that's associated with Taoism. The philosophical thought behind it is that everything that we have in the world in which we live is either some version or variation of these 5 elements. How do we make application? It's like their version, the Taoist version of the periodic table. So our periodic table is a little bit more complex than 5 elements, if you guys familiarize yourself with the periodic table before. But instead, hey, everything's made up of either wood, fire, earth, metal, or water. That way. Sound good? Interesting idea. I've heard a variation of this saying that, the game of rock, paper, scissors, somehow, some way related to this concept of the 5 elements. All right. All right, let's take some time to draw a second picture. So you got another blank side. You should have one more blank side. So fold it over so you can't see the first picture. You got one blank side in front of you. Now I want you to recreate. I'm going to reread the poem again to you. And this time I want you to think of take on the identity of a Taoist artist. Okay, see if you can apply the principles of Taoism to this second picture that you're going to draw. Okay, I'll reread it. Snow on the river, over thousands of mountains, no bird flies. Over thousands of paths, there is no trail of footprints. On a lonely boat sits an old man with a bamboo hat and cape, fishing silently on the snowy river. Again, over thousands of mountains, no bird flies. Over thousands of paths, there is no trail of footprints. On a lonely boat sits an old man with a bamboo hat and cape, fishing silently in the snowy river. All right, take a moment. Draw that one more time. Again, applying Taoist principles here to this one.